Kia ora, it is Kate. I'm joined by Kelly and PozzA, and this is Under the Checkered Flag. Our first topic of the day is one that I think we're all quite interested in because we all have our favourite Moto 2 riders. The Moto 2 rider market is really starting to move around a bit, and we're seeing all of the rumours, but we've had, I guess, our first big player confirmed. That is, Aaron Canet is moving away from Fantic Racing and joining the Elk Mark VDS racing team. We strongly suspect that he will be taking the place of Jake Dixon, who is rumoured to be going over to World Superbike Paddock. So that's quite interesting. What's also interesting is that his teammate is rumoured to be Dennis Onshu, who we know does seem to be coming to an end of his time at Red Bull KTM IO. And I think Gruade is going to be taking that spot. So, what do you guys think about the Moto 2 rider market? And are there any, people that you're keeping an eye on, especially?
I wouldn't say anyone I'm keeping a specific eye on except maybe Diogo Moreira, but it's kind of basically confirmed that he's moving to MotoGP anyway. It's just a matter of knowing what team. So there's nobody I'm really, excited about really moving. Maybe a Colin Vire re-signing Red Bull. If you're onto that, that would be great. But yeah, I'm quite happy with what's going on right now as it stands.
Yeah, as you mentioned, as obviously it's where my allegiances lies. I'm kind of just waiting on the news about Dennis Onshu, and it is seeming like he's going to Mark VDS now. There are rumors that he could be joining the Pramac Moto 2 team, but from what I've seen, Mark VDS are essentially just waiting until he's back from his injury to announce it. So I think that should be good. I feel like it'll also be interesting to see what machinery they use next year, because the commentators on the world feed were saying Aaron Canet was pretty firm on the fact that if he was staying in Moto 2 this year or next year, he wants a Calex. And I've also seen some rumors that Mark VDS could be switching back to Calex as it is. So I think that could be another interesting bit as well. And then, yeah, as Kelly mentioned, there's could be still some interesting developments with Diogo Moreira and Manu Gonzalez, whether or not they go up and leave some more seats vacant in Moto 2.
And Diogo Moreira is quite interesting because all rumors are floating around about him and that second LCR Honda seat, which I'm definitely very interested in. They're also rumoring Yamaha. However, given the fact that they've already got 5 riders and only 4 seats, I think that's a bit of a, lesser rumor. But it'll be interesting to see if Moreira does hop on a Honda. Looking at this weekend's racing, we were in Austria. We're going to start with Moto 3 because I want to talk about David Munoz. Now, some context for this if you haven't seen this weekend's racing, there was a fierce battle and it comes down to the last couple of laps, and David Munoz is right up in the pack, so you know it's going to be spicy. The move in question, he runs out wide a couple of riders, but one in specific I felt quite bad about, and that was Valentin Perron because he was, right up there. He was leading for a little bit. It would have been his first win. To me, this was a borderline move, so I can't really fault it. We've seen some strong opinions online, but what did you guys think of this move? Did you think it was clean? Do you think it should have been possibly a warning or anything like that? What do you think?
I feel like everyone talking about it is just a bit dramatic, really. I'm sorry. Like, I know I'm a bit of a Munoz fan, so it does feel like a bit of bias and all that, but like, it's not really. Everyone was talking about it, and I was like, Jesus, he must have, like, clattered the poor fella, but he didn't. There was nothing dramatic. It was an aggressive move. It was a move he tried and it worked, and I don't really see why everyone's being so dramatic about it. At least with my hatred for Morbidelli, when he tries it, it doesn't work out, and it's just a murder. But for Munoz today, it worked out. So as much as he is a little bit of a kamikaze in other races, I don't see why this should be one that stands out. When it worked, it was just an aggressive move. He left enough space. I'm sorry for Valentine, but that's just how life works.
Yeah, I'm also more on Kelly's side of the argument here. The way that I saw it, it kind of looked like Quiles and Peroni made contact before Munoz had even properly gotten alongside Quiles. So I think it was a hard move, but I think in the end it was fair. We've seen countless other incidents where like contact between riders has been made and they haven't penalized it. So I think the fact that there was no contact between Munoz and anyone, I didn't see any contact between Munoz and anyone anyway. I think it was a fair move, and I'm perfectly okay with it not being penalized.
I like how we're all on the same page. It was firm, it was aggressive, but overall, this is racing, and that's what we're all here for. Because Moto 3, the race as a whole, was quite entertaining. Like I say, the very brief summary I'm about to give does not give the race justice, but there was lots of pack racing. We had quite a few different leaders. Jose Antonio Rueda, it was not his weekend. He wasn't particularly strong, but he did still manage to finish in fifth place. The podium, Devon Munoz was P3. Rusai Yamanaka was in P2. I was really hoping that this was going to be his first win after Valentin got punted, but alas, it wasn't. Taking the top spot was Angel Piqueras. Overall, pretty strong race. I do want to talk about Cormac Buchanan after this race because he crashed out on the first lap. But before we do talk about that, what are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty interesting race, as they sort of tend to go in Austria and Moto 3. It was a little bit of battle at first, then the top four, I think it was at that time, sort of just settled into a rhythm, following each other, making the odd move here and there. And then, as it normally does, the last sort of 5-6 laps, it just exploded. And yeah, it was quite entertaining. Obviously, a 1-2 for the MT Helmets MSI squad, which was good to see. Angel Piqueras managed to claw a little bit of ground back on Rueda in the championship, not too much, but yeah, good to see Yamanaka on the podium as well. Munoz in third. Obviously, we've already spoken about his antics so far. Max Quiles was top rookie in fourth. Jose Antonio Rueda, as I mentioned, was in fifth. Valentin Peroni was another rookie in the points in seventh. Guido Pini and Alvaro Carpe were ninth and 10th. And none of the other rookies managed to get points, unfortunately.
Yeah, I found it to be quite an enjoyable race myself. It is also the only one that I watched live as I was away at a historic car festival that day. But yeah, I was quite happy to see the whole Munoz move live because it shows that even if he is an aggressive rider, he is quite capable of keeping it clean enough as well. So it's good to see and quite promising. I suppose a big shock for me was Rueda not winning, which is a shock for both my predictions and the way the race went. But yeah, there's not really a lot else I have of note except Casey O'Gorman had a pretty good, debutante race and he's on for a second as well this weekend. He finished in 18th place right behind Ruchai Moodley, which I will take. It is positive. It was really, really good and he was speedy. Um, Scott Ogden got a point, guys. Scott Ogden got a point. So I'd say overall I'm quite happy with the points finishers.
So, like I said, I want to talk about Cormac Buchanan, and now we all have our favourites, and when it's your own country person, you want to talk about them. But I guess it's not a good thing I want to talk about Cormac this week because can this guy stay on a bike in a race, please? I feel like he is constantly crashing. He has got to be up there with Joanne Mir in terms of statistics. Do you guys think he's going to get a ride next year? Or, yeah, just what are your thoughts?
I don't think it's bad enough that he's going to be out for a ride. He's a Moto3 rookie. He's just moved up from Junior GP. It's it's valid. No, it's valid be the words, but close enough. It's a normal thing for them to experience. Most riders of even MotoGP caliber have had a moment in their career where they've just not been able to get up to form, and this is Cormac. So, as much as this is sad to watch, I don't think it's going to have much of an effect on him getting a seat next year. If when he isn't crashing, he's quite consistent and gets good enough, points. So as much as it is inconsistent, it's good enough for a rookie, and I think they'll let it slide. So on to next year we go.
Yeah, I agree with Kelly. It's just rookie mistakes at this point, but he is a rookie. They're allowed to make rookie mistakes just so long as he's slowly but surely learning from them. I still think he's done enough this year to get a ride next year, whether it's with the same team or he switches teams. He's shown, I feel, enough flashes of, I don't want to say brilliance, but like enough flashes that shows he's a capable rider who can get the job done on his good days. So yeah, I don't think he'll be under a massive amount of pressure for next year.
No, and the fact he's outscoring his teammate Ruchi Moodley, like Cormac's on 27 points, Ruchi's on 11. So I'm hopeful. I'm positive. Looking at Moto 2 then, it was decent. And overall I was pretty happy with the weekend. I am gutted for David Alonso, who was having a really strong race and then crashed out really close to the end. We did see a shot after the race of him in the garage and he was crying, and that totally broke my heart. I also just want to highlight Tony Arbolino. Now, we don't know what's going on with Tony's future. He's had a pretty poor season when you think of Tony, you think him up there in the title fight. He finished in P5 this weekend, so it'll be just interesting to keep an eye on his results over the coming weeks. Our podium, Celestino Vietti, P3, Danny Holgado, P2, another great result for the rookie, and Diogo Moreira took the top spot again. Overall, I enjoyed this weekend, and yeah. What did you guys think?
I think it's kind of obvious that I really enjoyed the race this weekend. And that's because my guy Callum Var, I know I have to mention him. I'm sorry. He qualified ninth originally on the Saturday, and I was like, okay, that's an interesting one. Doesn't happen normally, but I just assumed, he'd sink like a rock, as it usually happens. But no, he didn't. Colin moved up a spot and he finished eighth overall on the Sunday. And I thought people were lying when they told me. I was like, "Are you taking the mick?" And they were like, "No, he's finished eighth." And I was like, "Oh my god." Yeah, really chuffed about that. Still, really, really happy. Hopefully it's a more consistent event, but it's good. Danny Holgado, as much as I do have mixed opinions of you, you aren't a bad rider. P2 as a rookie is quite impressive, and I give you that. Diogo Moreira in first on the way to the MotoGP seat, of course. Celestino Vietti pulled a podium. I don't know where he pulled it from, but he pulled it out somewhere. So happy for the fella, good for you. Tony Arbolino, like Kate said, with a just fabulous result, and we won't see that again for another 3 months probably. Um, yeah, not a lot else to say really. That's it apart from Manu Gonzalez, who I am considering taking off my predictions completely, and David Alonso. I'm tempted to take them off my thing completely.
Yeah, as far as Moto 2 goes, it was probably, it wasn't the most exciting race of the year, and I feel like part of that could be due to the fact that we were kind of robbed of a late race charge by David Alonso. I think he was just stuck behind Vietti for a bit too long, lost a bit too much time behind him, and then was just pushing a bit over the limit to sort of make that ground back up to his teammate and Moreira. So it's a shame, but I'm sure he'll be back in the next couple of races, back up there fighting. Diogo Moreira, good day for him. Obviously, in the title fight with Manuel Gonzalez, not finishing. That was due to a hole in his radiator, which he believes was caused from some gravel on the track after his teammate crashed on lap one. So that's got to hurt for him and the team as a whole. As we mentioned, Danny Holgado in second as top rookie. Good result for him. This was Vietti's third podium in a row at this track, so I'm not awfully surprised that he was up there. Seemed like he just kind of burnt his tires out a bit too quickly. It seemed like it was a better weekend for Boscoscuro as a whole, with Tony Arbolino in fifth, Ivan Ortola, another rookie, in sixth. Ethan Guevara was in ninth, Philip Salach in 11th, and none of the other speed ups actually scored points, but that's beside the point. And the other thing I wanted to mention was Aaron Canet in 10th. He had a big crash on the Saturday, I believe. So he was sort of just struggling through the race, probably with a bit of pain. Brought it home in 10th, closed in 6 points on Gonzalez, which I believe makes the gap in the championship 19 points now. So it's good to see that we've still got one championship that's sort of close together between the top two.
It is good we have one championship that, will hopefully come down to the wire because MotoGP. Well, Saturday, What can we say about Saturday? Except I am so sick and tired of ride height devices. First of all, though, I do have to mention Brad Binder, who actually got into a qualifying 2, which is very impressive because he never gets into qualifying 2. And he did it straight away from memory, like, as in he got it there to qualifying 2 on the Friday. So I think some of that KTM home field advantage snuck in there. He ended up coming home 5th in the sprint. Pedro Acosta, his teammate, came in P3. And the top two, Alex Marquez and Marc Marquez. Pretty standard stuff. But the thing that was most interesting to me is the fact that right off the start, Pecco Bagnaia and Firmin Aldeguer, to be fair, but they went sideways straight off the line. Now, Pecco didn't really recover from this, and he did retire later in the race because there was something wrong with that Ducati. This is just immensely frustrating, and I feel like it would have been hugely damaging to Pecco's morale, which is already got to be pretty low. So, yeah, I'm just quite gutted for Pecco, and I think he's going to be out of the title fight, in the next couple of races. Realistically, he's probably out of the title fight already, but you can never say never with motorcycle racing. What did you guys take out of Saturday for MotoGP?
I think what was it for the start of both Furman and Pecco? Was it not? It was a specific device. It was like a whole shot device or something like that. I could be completely wrong with that, but forgive me. It is 6:30 in the morning. But apparently that is what caused the situation with the bikes at the start. And there's a lot of calls. I think it is being banned already, but there's already a lot of calls for it to be removed immediately, purely because it could cause such a danger to everyone else in that grid. And you could see it at the start of the race, as much as it looked like, oh, he's taking a little spin, that could have been in the path of any of those incoming riders straight into it. And it could have been a lot more dangerous than it was. And yeah, that's why it's being removed. So aside from that, hopefully it doesn't happen again before they are fully removed. But aside from that, it wasn't really that entertaining because, I am a Bezzecchi girl and that just didn't really work out in my favour very well. He finished fourth off the podium, not very fun. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was the most entertaining of sprints aside from that, same as any other weekend really. I just didn't enjoy it very much aside from Pedro Acosta getting a podium.
Yeah, just expanding on Kelly's point about the whole shot devices potentially being banned. A tweet that Matt Oxley put out from his media scrum, from Luca Marini's media scrum, was saying that in the next safety meeting that he's going to bring it up as potentially an issue because the point is that the amount of torque that the ride height devices give the bikes is just too much for the rear tires to handle. So he said he's going to bring that up in the next safety meeting. And the big point is that tech rules can be instantly overruled if it's a matter of safety. So there's nothing that the manufacturers can do about it, because as we normally see when someone wants something banned, it's usually Ducati that put their hand up and are against it. But yeah, in this case, they wouldn't be able to do that. If it's a matter of safety that they'd be banning it for, they can do it instantly without any arguments from any teams. So it could be interesting to see how that plays out.
I guess we will find out straight after the Hungarian Grand Prix because, yeah, I do think, and it's been talked about so much, that this is a matter of safety, and it's best to be proactive where safety is concerned. So I didn't know that, so I'm very glad to hear it. And we will link the tweet in the description below. Looking at Sunday, I think I have to say my rider of the race on Sunday is actually it's a tie. It's a tie between Joe and Mir, who actually finished in P6. Amazing race from him, and just really, really happy with such a solid result from him. But it was the closing stages of this race when, it was pretty stock standard overall, where there wasn't a lot of overtaking. It was one of the more laid back races where you're doing something else while watching, allegedly. But in the closing stages, we hear over the commentators saying that Firmin Aldeguer, the rookie, is catching Marc Marquez. And he really was. That gap came down so quickly. I was so impressed. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to, overtake him. And Furman ended up in P2, but overall, I just thought it was exciting, and we know Furman's fast. We know he's a little bit inconsistent, but is definitely working on it. It's just exciting, and I really hope that we see more of this side of him. You can tell I'm in his fan club. I know. I'm sorry, but I just had to say that. The podium in P3, great result for Aprilia, Marco Bezzecchi. Firmin Aldeguer, as I said, P2, and Marc Marquez takes the top spot again. What did you guys think of?
Yeah, it wasn't, one of the races where you go back and be like, wow, this was so good. But like result wise it was good, just it wasn't very entertaining to watch and wait for those results. But yeah, fair play to Furman. There was like a lot of controversy around him coming into MotoGP, like, oh, he's not good enough, oh, he's not consistent enough, oh, he's not fast enough. Yeah, you can be quiet now. Shush now. Bye bye. I think we can guess who we're on about there. At least Kate and Paz do. But yeah, Mark Zaki in third. That was also quite good for me, even if it was from pole originally. Luca Marini got a point. He got more than a point. He finished 13th. He got 3 points, guys. I swear he's on a comeback. I swear. Um, but Joe on Mir finished in sixth, which was 10 points. Unfortunately, he's just not consistent enough for that to be, a normal thing. So I'm not going to comment too much on it. Pedro Acosta had a pretty good weekend, third and fourth respectively. It's not bad, and I give him that. That was a pretty good race by him. Bagnaia finished eighth, which isn't good for a world champion. So it makes me wonder how bad really is his mental state right now, especially with how the bike is. Morbidelli finished outside the top 10. That's good enough for me, and I will take it as a negative. The only thing I am not very happy about, I suppose, is Jorge Martin crashing out again. Thankfully, he is fit, but it's just not very nice to witness, even if I do have very mixed feelings about him.
Yeah, as we mentioned, it wasn't the most exciting race for a lot of it. Seeing Fermin Aldier kind of charge up to P2 was good to see at the end. I'd like to give a brief shout out to KTM, just because they brought their first proper update of the year. It seems to have been pretty positive. It looks a bit like they've just wandered into the Ducati garage and stolen a Ducati, but that's beside the point. Pedro Acosta was up in fourth. Ine Bastianini managed to put in another good result in fifth. Brad Binder was in seventh, and Maverick Vinales unfortunately didn't race as he's still not 100% fit from his injury in Sachsenring. But I'm sure once he gets back onto it, fully fit, he'll also be up there fighting, which should be good to see. Ralph Hernandez was in the top 10 again. I think that's like the fifth or sixth race in a row he's been in there, so good bit of form for him as well.
It is disappointing that Mavs, obviously, we want him to be fully fit before he returns, but I do think that when Vinales is on and when that KTM's working, I think he could have easily taken this race. And Poz has just pointed out in the chat, and I'm going to mention it here. What the hell, Yamaha? So 18 riders finished. 15th place, Fabio Quartararo. 16th place, Alex Rins. 17th place, Miguel Oliveira. 18th place, Jack Miller. You just, Yamaha, what? On a more upbeat note, to finish us off today, I've done the math, and Marc Marquez can mathematically win the World Championship this year by, I think it's San Marino. So, my question to the two of you, because obviously that's quite unlikely to happen, that would require Alex Marquez having a very bad run of races, which I don't see happening because he is Mr. Consistent. What round do you think, if you think Marc Marquez is going to win this World Championship, and you may not, I don't know what goes on inside your head, but if you do think he's going to win this World Championship, what round do you think he's going to wrap it up at?
I don't have a specific round in mind. I think he's just going to get it wrapped up as soon as he can. There's like, it might go down to the wire considering how consistent Alex Marquez is, but then you have to remember Alex Marquez and Mark themselves, they're not indestructible people. They have crashes, they have bad weekends, and I think that can come into play. So as much as I don't think he's going to win it at San Marino, I don't think he's going to win it at Valencia either. It's going to be in between those. I just don't know when in between those. I'm thinking kind of like the Indonesia, Australia, Malaysia part of the year, but I don't know which weekend that would be.
Yeah, I think the possibility of him winning the title in San Marino kind of just stems down to how much he can bribe Alex for to sort of let him do that. So I don't think that's really going to happen. I feel like sort of more Japan, Indonesia time, it could probably happen. Maybe Australia if Alex can put in some good results. So yeah, I think somewhere between those 3 weekends, which are actually coming up pretty soon.
Now, as some of our listeners will know, that Poz and I will both be at Phillip Island this year. I'm also going to Malaysia, so I'm hoping for one of those 2 rounds for Marc Marquez to clinch this title. For Poz's sake, I'm hoping it's Malaysia because he is definitely a Valentino Rossi fanboy, but it would be quite entertaining. And if Marc Marquez does clinch the title in Australia, I'll try and convince Poz to let me record his reaction. He'll probably say no, but you never know. That could be future content idea. But for now, thank you for listening.